What are your memories from that TV show? How often do you get approached about it?
It's funny. It's a really particular group of peeps that love chaotic. I loved it because it was one of my first jobs where it was not dubbing and it was recorded and animated after. I mean, it was recorded and then animated after to whatever choices we had made in the booth. Um, and that felt really decadent to me because in the past, my experience up until then had been doing sort of English dubs of other, major cartoons that had been already done in a different language. And then a lot of the interesting process was like looking at mouth flap and trying to get what the dialogue had been written by the US based writers to fit into the mouth that pre-existed, right? And in this way, there was such a freedom to it because we were creating this never before, done show. And as we went along, we got to develop our characters. And it was a lot of fun to know that it was, basically Sarah was partially my creation and, in the collaboration with the writers. So it was really fun.
Now that you mention that, I wonder, is there any bit of that character that is specifically you that you were able to get in? Like, hey,
You know what I will say? She has like a very like sort of studious diligence about her. That kind of I think that's probably why my choices were the way that they are. She's got a sarcasm and like a toughness and an ability to hang with the guys that look that was exactly me growing up. And I think that's why when I auditioned, like I just felt kind of inherently like I understood, what her voice was and who she was, uh, kind of in a more well-rounded sense. And I had my director was someone named Darren Dunstan, and he would have me like he would give me really fun direction in reference to like Golden Girls. He would say like, I need more Dorothy and less Blanche in there. And it was just like, oh, amazing. Yeah, totally dry. Sotto voce. I'll never forget, like there's something she said like over and over again that I would always have to say, like, you're being such a scan hog or something like that that was like ended up being something that was like a commonly referenced. I was always calling people scan hogs, but the first time that we were really trying to nail me not sounding angry, but me sounding forceful, and how would I say it? It's just funny. Like I haven't really thought about chaotic in a while, but it was such a joyful, joyful, joyful time for me. And then between seasons one and seasons two, they did like a sort of redesign, and it was interesting to kind of learn even more about the behind the scenes process of animation through that. Because as an actor, like oftentimes you're not privy to any of that, right? You just kind of like they hand you a script, you're standing in front of a mic, and you say the words, right? But it was nice and really cool and interesting for me to be there, aware of all of the creative discussions that they were having. Like I wasn't part of them, but those discussions did filter into our sessions in terms of like stylistically how they wanted us to approach the character. So it was really cool.
do you have a favorite episode from Chaotic? Do you even remember any of
Oh
them?
my gosh, I was trying to think of that in anticipation. There was so honestly, my overarching memory is Mark's character being hilariously um, kind of unintentionally buffoonish, And so whenever the three of us would be together, Jason and Mark and I, it would be super fun of how like the shenanigans that we would get into. Um, but I'm trying to think of like specific, it'll come to me.
Yeah.
Specific episodes. Are there ones that you remember? Because then probably when you remember them, then I'll be like, oh, wait, yeah, I remember that when it was doing this, this, and this. Here's the tricky part about recording these kinds of things. We never received the script ahead of time. And then you see it for the first time when you're in the booth. you cold read it, you make a bold acting choice. You're there alongside the director and the engineer so that they can help guide you. But then you leave that script and you never see it again. So unlike other projects where like I'll have the script in hand and be able to read through and remind myself like, oh, right. Everything's so under so lock and key that, and that one in particular, it aired on Saturday mornings. So if I was not up on Saturday mornings to catch it when it aired, like I didn't see it, you know? So it's so funny. It was like it harkened back to the day where you had to sit and watch in front of a TV and not just like sort of stream an entire season all at once. It's
Yeah, yeah,
but is that how you would watch it? Like you got up on Saturday mornings and
yeah,
um
yeah. That was definitely my childhood, getting up on Saturday mornings and watching that. And I was in Paris over summer, and
uh-huh.
when I was standing by the Eiffel Tower, one of the first thoughts that came to me is that episode where it's all a dream, but the chaotic creatures they come to Earth, and Sarah's in Paris with all the
Oh
Danians.
right.
Yeah,
Oh yes, I do
yeah,
remember this. I do remember this. Yeah, it's such a fun time. I just really loved also. I mean, it was very different, like first season animation versus second season animation. Like it was kind of
hmm.
flatter versus rounder. I don't know. Did you have a preference on which one you preferred?
I did like the second one, but I fell in
Yeah.
love with the first one. That's how I got into it.
Yeah, I think so. Like honestly, I was hoping because of the commitment to the way that they did it, for the second season and that redesign, I thought it would have more legs because of it, because there was something like inherently charming about the first design, but then it felt a little flat, and then there it felt really crisp and modern, the redesign, and I felt like we might get more seasons out of it, but it was still super, super fun. Um, I always feel like I have a memory of so many of those episodes being like to be continued, like cliffhangery. So I always remember being like in the booth and being like, what do
Yeah,
I do next? How am I supposed to know? And they're like, you will not know until you get the scripts for next week. And I'm like, oh, you bastards.
I
I
remember.
know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like what you mentioned right now because I remember as a kid, the last episode was coming on live, and I didn't know it was the last episode.
Hmm.
So I missed it live, but that one ended on a cliffhanger. Do you
Yeah.
remember when you got the news that it wouldn't be coming back?
Yeah, I was bummed. At the time, around the same time, oh my gosh, I don't know if it was that like 2008,
I think it was 10 or
2007.
11.
Oh yeah, around that time, there were a couple other shows that I was working on, but I just remember thinking like, oh, those were shows where I inherited characters from other people. And Sarah to me was so special because she really felt like me. She was my baby. So if it was such a bummer to know that they weren't continuing. There was another show that I did with four kids called Viva Pinata that I felt similarly
Yeah.
to. Viva Pinata was so fun.
Yeah.
And we got to more on that show than on Chaotic, just because of the timing of all the action and the battles. But with Viva Pinata, there were more opportunities to ad lib and improv, and that felt like, oh wow, this is super fun. We can make comedic choices, and then they'll animate it afterwards, and that. So those two shows that were, I guess, the two prelay shows ended up not being picked up, which is a bummer. And frankly, that's part of the business, right? You write a new content, and if they don't have like sort of the established following of some, of the Wings Club, of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and what's it, Pokemon, and I'm trying to think of what else was like GI Joe or
Yu-Gi-Oh,
something else.
Sonic.
Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, so they had, sorry, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
blanking on my own career. I appreciate it. Thanks, over.
Okay.
But like those had such like voracious and loyal fans, and we weren't afforded the time to build and amass that type of following before they needed to monetize it, and then so that they ultimately just made a business decision, which I get, but it was a bummer. I was like, man, I felt like we had a few more seasons, we would have been able to, I think, hit our stride.
Yeah, and I was telling Mark this that I'm aware that Chaotic was a really big deal in Canada. And for some reason, I
Really?
always thought that it was a Canadian show, but he was telling me, no, we did it all in New York. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that. But
Oh,
I know it had a very
wow.
big following in Canada. And there's still people out there these days on Reddits and stuff that are, you know,
Talking about it.
talking about it. Yeah,
Oh, that's
it's
awesome.
great stuff. Did you ever get any of the cards? Did they ever give them to you for free?
No, no, I didn't. The one time, I'm trying to think of the only thing that I got. One time I got some Pokemon cards for free, and then I got two like I don't know how it came about, but in Viva Pinata, they were tiny little toys, action figures that I think temporarily came out with McDonald's or something. Like it was a brief stint. And I remember being so like stoked about it because it had always been a childhood dream of mine to like be a posable action figure, a voice for a posable action figure. So I still have my little Ella Finella from there, but I don't remember what the product partnership was, but I didn't get any of the chaotic stuff and I love it. I love the artwork.
Yeah.
You know what? I probably could find some like on Etsy or place to find like some cool stuff, but
Yeah, absolutely.